It's amazing how just 2 years can change a whole fan base. We go from drafting defense in the first round for like 15 years to everyone saying, no, we got to go offense. And now it totally flips. Should the Jets spend both top 10 picks on defense? J-E-T-S, Jets, Jets, Jets! Welcome in. My name's Ryan. I'll be your pilot. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here before, welcome back. I love having you here. Similar to the should we double dip on O-line, we are talking the opposite side of the ball. Should we double dip on defense? The Jets this past year, very, very bad on defense. 32nd in the league with just under 400 yards per game given up. 504 points on the season given up. That was dead last in the league. And we were minus 194 in point differential. We were actually 31st in that one. So not too bad if I do say so myself. Things are looking up. I digress. Should the Jets be taking 2 defensive players inside the top 10? That's what we're talking about here today. Gonna be interesting thought conversation. So if you had asked me back in August probably, I would have said yes, 100% the Jets should be taking an edge rusher at the top of this draft, and then maybe with the Seattle pick, if it was in the late teens, early 20s, we should be taking a cornerback. That's, let's address the defensive side of the ball. We've addressed the offensive side of the ball heavily this past year and the last 2 off seasons in general. Now, 6 months later, Mekhi Becton's future is kind of a question mark. You have Denzel Mims, who hasn't really produced in his second year, and the Jets are falling apart on defense. So do we go with the offensive side of the ball? Do we go with the defensive side of the ball? Do you help Zach Wilson? Do you help the hemorrhaging of points and yards and everything that's going on the defensive side of the ball? So at the top of the draft, at number 4, yes, I would say edge rusher, I think, is probably where everyone's looking. Hutchinson, Thibodeaux are the 2 main guys, or do you wind up reaching maybe a little bit to get the 3rd edge rusher at number 4 in the event the 2 guys go ahead of you? You could do that. I think the other popular opinion that people are going to talk about is Kyle Hamilton. That's the unicorn caliber prospect out of Notre Dame. Guy's an elite specimen, super fast, 6'4" or something like that. The guy can absolutely run all over the field and can cover all 3 levels of the defense and really, really change how you operate. That's going to be a really popular discussion point, I think, for the New York Jets. And we've heard that the Jets are high on Hamilton. I think most teams are high on Hamilton. Last year we heard the Jets were high on Kyle Pitts, but at number 2 overall, they're not taking a tight end. They're obviously going to go with the quarterback there. So how do they approach this? Do they go for that 3rd edge rusher at 4? Do they go for Hamilton? Do they possibly look at Sauce Gardner? Is that a possibility, going real high? He's starting to slide up as Stingley starts to slide down. I don't know. It would be interesting to see. I think the edge rusher is definitely the most important part. When you look at Robert Saleh's defense over the course of the last few years, his first 2 years in San Francisco, they really didn't perform that well until they got Nick Bosa on that defensive line, and then they played phenomenally well. Then the following year, he winds up getting hurt, and they wind up having another not-so-great season. And then going into last year, we lost all our edge rushers. So I think adding the edge rushers, getting Carl Lawson back is paramount for sure. Then you get to that number 10 pick, and then it starts getting a little fishy because you're like, all right, is it a little too early to go with a wide receiver? I've heard the whole thing, maybe this wide receiver class is not as strong as other receiver classes in the past. I don't necessarily feel that way, but if you are thinking that route, what other defensive positions could you wind up going? I guess if you go safety early on, you could be thinking edge rusher because Daniel Jeremiah does have 7 edge rushers in his top 25 prospects in this draft. You could definitely consider that route. If you were to go with the edge rusher at 4, I'm going to assume Hamilton's probably not there at 10. Otherwise, you wind up having a serious discussion. Okay, are we taking the safety at 10? And I think, I could definitely fathom that maybe a little bit more. I think the other popular position that people have us taking, and it drives me bonkers when I see it at 4 and a little less so at 10, is cornerback. I want no part of Derek Stingley. I know Todd McShay just released his mock draft and has us taking Stingley, and that just pulls my hair out. I do not want any type of injury-prone player inside the first round, especially inside the top 10. I'm getting shades of D. Milner. I don't want that. We have too many guys on IR already. So, Sauce Gardner, the other option, cornerback from Cincinnati. I think he's truly the best cornerback in this class, and if you wanted to pull the trigger on him at 10, I could live with that. I think Bryce Hall is a very nice option in our secondary. Ideally, if you could make him the number 2 corner, I think that would be ideal because I think we hope he's a number 1, but relegating him to number 2 is definitely the way to you hope to go maybe. Michael Carter in the slot, solid. Guidry in the slot has been solid. I like Eccles as a depth role or a fill-in guy. So I can get behind going cornerback. Safety, you're looking at our safety position. I don't know if Joe Douglas really values safety super high. It's something we're going to really find out this offseason because we haven't spent the money to keep Jamal Adams. We didn't extend Marcus May. We did franchise tag him, but when we tried to extend him, we offered him 20% less than the franchise tag. You signed LaMarcus Joyner for $1 million, and then you draft Ashton Davis in the 3rd round, who is an athletic freak, but probably not going to be a starter, or at least not a concrete lock to be a starter moving forward. So will Joe Douglas invest a top 10 pick into one of these safeties or a high pick into cornerback? Robert Saleh's defense doesn't really look like it I don't want to say it doesn't factor in cornerback because you got to factor in cornerback. But if you get pressure on the quarterback, that limits the amount of time that cornerbacks have to cover. So it lessens the degree of need for maybe a cornerback. So I would say no. I would definitely not be on board with drafting 2 defensive players in the top 10. I think the whole, if Hamilton were to slide to 10 in some crazy fashion, then yeah, I'd probably get on board with that if you go with Thibodeau at 4. I'm not sure. I want to hear from you guys because there seems to be a whole lot of discussion going on this front. Should the Jets double dip at defense in the 1st round? Do you think it makes sense? Try to revamp this whole team? We clearly have been spending on the offensive side. Maybe it's time to spend on the defensive side. I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, go Jets.